Give a welcome to CAP President Caleb Ness.
Well, thank you very much. I have to tell you, this is hard to speak after a meal like that. I'm finding that out. Last year, if I remember right, I spoke. Did I speak before the meal? I don't remember. Seems like a long time ago. But tonight I want to just speak to you on a few things. CAP is all about getting the American people to inform their government of what they're supposed to be doing with the Constitution. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I actually even alliterated this. There's 3 responsibilities I see. Even though they're not specifically said to be responsibilities or duties in the Constitution, they're there. And they all begin with the letter V, so hopefully you can remember them all. But I want to start out. The first one is vote. Article 1, Section 2. Oh, 1 second. Let me gather my thoughts here. I have to find it. I'm sorry, so let me restart there. Article 4, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution says that privileges and immunities are entitled to the citizens of the several states. Article 4, Section 2 reads, and it's just the first paragraph, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. And I got to thinking, of course, this Constitution was written in 1787. And, of course, I'm from Maine. I live in Freiburg. Maine wasn't a state then. They were still part of Massachusetts. But I do know that New Hampshire was a state during that time. And if I can find it, the New Hampshire Constitution speaks about this thought of voting. And I know some of it has been changed over the years through amendment and such. However, the Constitution of New Hampshire, Part 1st, Article 11 says, all elections are to be free, and every inhabitant of the state of 18 years of age and upwards shall have an equal right to vote in any election. That, of course, I'm figuring that the 18 age limit has been added since. But the right to vote is specifically mentioned. Now, the reason I mentioned Article 4, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution is because that says that all privileges and immunities are to be enjoyed by the citizens of the several states, as stated in their constitutions. The right to vote is given to the people. It is a right. This is a huge privilege that we, the people, can enjoy. And it's not specifically mentioned in the U.S. Constitution. It is specifically mentioned in the New Hampshire Constitution. And the reason that it might not be in the American Constitution is because I personally would choose to believe that the Founding Fathers thought that was an inalienable right to be able to say, and it's implied throughout the Constitution, how can you have an election without votes? And yet the election system is mentioned in the United States Constitution. And so the right to vote was almost one of those unneeded things because it was implied. It was something that was supposed to be there no matter what. And this right to vote is something that can, in many ways, direct a nation. Technically, voting is not a duty. You do not have to vote. With the right also comes a right not to. With the First Amendment, you have the right to worship God as you please. At the same time, you have the same right not to worship God, if you so choose. Same with voting. If you wish to vote, you can vote. If you wish not to, you don't have to. But I think the American people need to think of voting as a privilege, an honor, and a duty. It is one of the few things that your nation, besides paying income taxes, requires or asks you to do is to give your opinion in a general election, whether that be on who's running for office or state referendums or different questions. Voting is the way that's done. And the founding fathers wanted us to have a direct line of influencing the way our government goes. And here's another thing. If you can't agree with someone that's running for office, you have the right to run yourself. And that's something that is an amazing thing, because you're never going to find two people that can perfectly agree on everything. You're never going to find it. But most of the time, I think you agree with yourself. At least I would hope so. So you can run yourself. You can put your own ideas out. And that's what's so amazing about America, is all these different ideas and bring them into one group and be able to work them out. Now, some are good, some are bad. And we have to work with that. That's why we have different opinions. That's why we have the form of government we have. But that's another thing. If you do not like someone that's running, run yourself. You can put your own ideas in. And, you know, of course, elections is selling your ideas to people and trying to get their vote for it. So that's another thing that's amazing about America. You can have your own ideas in government. But back to voting. You do not have to vote. If you had an elected official, though, and you elect this guy to the Senate, just say, and out of, let's say, 150 votes in a certain amount of time, you only voted 4 times. Would you ever vote for that man again? No, because he didn't do his job, right? Think of that as what it is with the American people. Your country asks you to do, you know, probably the max, town meetings and different things, probably vote 4 or 5 times a year at max. And some people don't even do it once. It's the one thing your government asks you to do. You can vote. It's truly an honor. Now, how does this affect the Constitution? It has a lot to do with the Constitution. Everyone, in some ways, interprets the Constitution a little differently. Now, we have, you know, the left and the right. The left has a different view. The right has a different view. How does voting affect that? It puts the view that you favor in power. Now, of course, you have to get fellow citizens to view the same way that you do to be able to do much. Because as we all know, 1 vote out of 300 million people isn't a big chance. But the thing is, you can conglomerate, you can put people together, and you can get an idea pushed through. The Constitution is affected by voting because you can vote the Constitution into office. You can look at the candidates and say, this is the one I believe is going to defend the Constitution the best. This is the one that's going to look at the Constitution and say, this is what it means. This is how I need to vote on these issues. That's how how you can vote for the Constitution. And that's something I believe every American citizen, when they're at the ballot box, needs to take into consideration. Is this person I'm voting for going to defend the Constitution of the United States? It's something, the Constitution is kind of going under the rug. It's not being referred to like it should. I heard one man say that we don't have a king in the United States, but in a way we do. And it's called the Constitution of the United States. It is our supreme law. And when we have people that don't care about what it says anymore, they are no longer viable for office. The Constitution, let's see if I can find it, because this is interesting. I believe it's Article 5. Yes. Article 5. This would be the third paragraph. It says the senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and the several states, shall be bound listen to this, bound by oath or affirmation. And listen, this is the only requirement it says, to support this Constitution. When you have a legislator or anyone in government that says, I don't care what the Constitution says on this issue, they're no longer able to be in office according to this. They are no longer viable for the office that they are holding. And I actually saw a video one time of a representative, I believe it is in the United States Congress, and they were talking about an issue, and they said, well, what about what the Constitution says? He said, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Folks, this is our supreme law. And he said he doesn't care. This is not good. Those kind of people no longer deserve your vote. They no longer deserve it. You need to vote people in that are going to defend this Constitution. The next V, I gotta move a little quicker here. Voice. You as an American citizen have a voice in our government. It's really amazing the way our government was set up. Of course, when in the convention, they were originally going to go either, of course, all the small states wanted everything to be based on equal representation among the states. The big states wanted population because they were always going to get the bigger majority. And they did something that we call the Great Compromise, where they said the Senate will have the equal representation of the states and the House will be based off the population of the states. It's really amazing how that works. Now, the reason we have a House of Representatives, it really says it in the name. They're representing you. They are representing you in all the legislation that they pass. They are representing the people of the state of New Hampshire, the people of the state of Maine, the people of the United States of America. They are representing those people. But how can they represent you when you never tell them what you want? If you have someone that's representing, they've got to know their constituents' opinion. I have a gentleman that I know, he was a selectman in the town of Bridgeton. His name is Paul Hoyt. And he said that when, of course this is on a small town scale, he said, if we have an issue before the selectmen and we had 3 to 4 people call us, it was considered a landslide decision. 3 to 4 people just contacting. Imagine if we had the people of the states, 2,000 or 3,000 of them, contacting the representatives in Congress. How much better would the American people have their opinion heard in Congress? It is your right to vote. Now this, or your right to voice your opinion. This is protected under the First Amendment. You have the freedom of speech, and that means to anyone, anywhere, at any position. But you also have the right of redress of grievances. You have the right of petition. You can contact your senator, you can contact your representative, you can even contact the President of the United States if you need to. And you can say, this is what I want to see done. Now I need you to do your best to make sure it happens. That's your right. And honestly, I believe if more people would do that today, a lot of the problems we're facing now, we wouldn't be facing. Because the people would be represented in our government. You have to understand that this Constitution is actually, it's not, it is to the government from the people. I heard one man put it this way. He said, we, the people sitting in front of me, are the government. We just have people in specific places that do our work for us. We're the government and they work for us. It's not the other way around. We don't have to fold to what they want, because ultimately we're the ones that are going to either vote them in or vote them out. If they want our vote, they need to do what we want them to. And that's one thing I think people are forgetting. They see the Washington as this big government and that it can't be reckoned with. Well, folks, there's just a few hundred of them and there's millions of us. I think that we can reckon with them, especially when we're the ones voting them in. We can have our voice heard if we'll just contact. It's that simple. Email. It's easy. It's the easiest time in all world history to talk to people right now. You can email, phone call. If you can text message, you can do it all, or you can show up and talk to them. We need to make sure that we're heard because it's we the people, not we the government. So we have vote. We need to vote. Let's keep that as a responsibility. That is a must. Let's voice our opinion. Let's make sure that when things are coming up that are in government and we want to see things done, let's make sure we voice our opinion and make sure the people that are representing us know what we want. Because that's what they're there for. They're there to represent our opinion. And then the last thing, which is what I think CAP is here for, is to help other. You need to understand the venue. And I say the venue meaning the Constitution of the United States. Every American citizen needs to know this thing, at least in some basic form. The Founding Fathers created a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. However, you need to know the venue through which that government runs. And this is the venue. The Constitution needs to be thought of in three ways. It needs to be considered a letter, a rule book, and a measuring stick. And you say, a letter. What do you mean? Folks, this is a letter from we the people to the United States government saying, this is the way you're going to run, to the United States government from we the people. That is what it is. This is the way you're going to run, and this is what we're going to hold you to this. The other thing is it's a rule book. It specifically mentions all the powers and authorities and processes by which our government must run. You know what? The thing is out there, when all else fails, follow the rule book. I'd have to tell you, I'd say they're failing pretty well. Okay, you know why? We're not following the rule book. There's too many. The system by which this was made has got so haywire that we can't do anything efficiently anymore. If we go back to this, there'd be all kinds of time up in Washington because they would be ruling on a lot less things. This specifically lays out, Article 1, Section 8 lays out the powers of Congress. And they've looked at that article and that section and broadened some of their powers substantially. And that's not supposed to happen. And I believe a big part of that is because we the people don't know what this is. We don't know it. The last thing it needs to be thought of is it's a measuring stick. It's only that big. I don't mean a measuring stick. Does the government measure up to this? This has standards in it, folks. This is where the power is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be here, and it's not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be right here. This Constitution lays out powers perfectly so that they're balanced, so one doesn't overreach into the other. But because people have got in there and messed with the system, where it's not that way anymore. We have courts ruling on things that they're not supposed to be. We have Congress designating powers that they don't even have. And we have, once in a while, the president reaching over into a place where he shouldn't be, signing something into law that's not supposed to be there. That's not the way this is supposed to work, folks. And if you and I get to know this document the way it's supposed to be known, we will have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. James Madison said, a well-informed people alone can remain free. Folks, this is what CAP's about. It's informing you. Our motto is informing we the people. That's our job. We want to get this into your hands so you can use it. And you can tell your government, I don't think that's quite right. Let's change that. Let's get this back on track. Let's straighten this out. Let's dampen this down a little. Because this isn't supposed to be there. That's what this is for, folks. It's a measuring stick. So I encourage you, learn that Constitution. This has our God-given Constitution guaranteed rights. And if we do not know what our rights are, how easy would it be to lose them? I think Isaac was the one that mentioned it earlier. People that have the most usually, or people that have so much to lose, do little about it. They don't keep their freedom. Folks, let's keep this. This is something worth keeping. It's the longest running constitution in the world. We got to keep this thing. We can't lose it. And folks, if we can keep this, we'll keep our government in check. We'll keep liberty alive and freedom enjoyable. And that's what we all want. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you.